Hey everybody, this is Miss Durham back with another video. Today we are working on Module 6, Lesson 10, Grade 5, okay? And I'm so happy that most of you all were able to go to the school, get your packets. So this particular module is in your packet, so go get your Engage New York packet, pause the video if you need to, give me a like, give me a subscriber, and come back with your Engage New York packet. If you don't have your packet, don't worry. You can still use paper and pencil or paper and pen, whatever you need to write with, and copy down as we go along. Copy your charts and then copy your coordinate grids as we move on through the lesson. Okay, everybody, let's get going. All right, so we were working on the relationship, okay? We were determining the relationship between the x and y coordinates, okay, from the factor of the rule here, okay? So in lesson 9, we were working on determining the relationship of the x and y coordinates from the rule provided, okay? And then sometimes we were identifying the rule from the coordinates provided, okay? So let's look at the rule here. Here, oh goodness, why won't it let me write? All right, you all, here we have, okay, hold on, give me just a second. Let me figure out what's happening, why. Okay, here we have y is 3 times x, okay? 3 times x. So it's pretty simple. What kind of math is 3 times x? Okay, that means multiply. Very good. So y equals 3 times x, so that means x times 3 equals y. So I'm going to write the rule times 3 here. Okay, so let's go in and get the relationship between the x and y coordinates. So when x is 1, and for you all here, I'm here. When x is 1, if the rule is x times 3, we need to multiply 1 times 3. And what is 1 times 3? 3. Good. Tres. Very good. So now we have the relationship between x and y. When x is 1, y is 3. And then here they want us to indicate our coordinate pairs. So you open parentheses. The x-axis goes first. So we have 1 for the x-axis, comma, separated. 3 for the y-axis, close parentheses, okay? All right, let's move on, buddies. Let's see if I can open it up a little bit. All right, here we're using the same rule, but we're going to the next coordinate pair. So when x is 2, what is the value of y? If the rule says times 3, x times 3 equals y, then we take the value of x, which is 2, we multiply it by 3. 2 times 3 equals 6. Good. Very good. 2 times 3 equals 6. So now we have to put our coordinate pair. X goes first, comma, 6, close parentheses. Let's move on. The rule is x times 3. 5 times 3 equals 15. So 15 would be our y value here. And I'm going to write the coordinate pair. And then the last one here is 7. X is 7. So when x is 7, the rule is times 3. 7 times 3 equals 21. Very good. I think 21. Okay? So here we'll put our coordinate pair, 7, comma, 21. X goes first, y is second. Now we have coordinate pairs they want us to graph. Okay? So let's look at the first coordinate pair. Here we have 1 on the x-axis and 3 on the y-axis. So I'm going to go down to my graph. And we always plot the x-axis first. So here would be the tick mark for 1. And let me count just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So the first one is a tick mark for 1. And then I would move up to 3. 1, 2, 3 on the y-axis. And then our coordinate plot goes there. And I'll place it here. I hope you all can see it. All right, let's move on. The next coordinate pair is 2, 6. So that's 2. We go over to 2 on the x-axis. And then up to 6 on the y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our coordinate pair belongs there. Let me place it. Good job. And I hope you all are doing the same. If you need to pause the video so that you can draw your coordinate grid and then your data charts here, you can do so, okay? That's the best thing about the videos. Let's move on. The next coordinate pair is 5 and 15. So I go to 5 on the x-axis, which is here, and then up to 15 on the y-axis. And let Ms. Storm put her point, my plot. And there would be our coordinate pair, our plot. All right, let's go to the next one. Last one here says 721. So we're going over to 7 on the x-axis. This is 5. This is 6. This is 7. And then up to 21 on the y-axis. Here would be 21. Okay, so let me go ahead and plot. Now, the last thing we have to do is draw a line that connects all of our dots or all of our points. Okay, so here, Ms. Durham's going to try her best to draw a straight line. It's not so easy with this iPad. And that's not so straight. Let me try one more time, you all. Just one more. That's a little bit better. And they give the line a name. So the line's name here is line Y. So I'm going to put a Y here. And then I can put a line segment on top. That's the math symbol for line Y. Or you can just write the words line Y. Okay? All right, let's move on. I'm trying to get quicker with the videos because it takes too long to load the video. So let's keep going. Let's look at the rule here. The rule for the next set, that is 4 is 1/3 as much as X. When we hear as much as, they're telling us to multiply. Okay, because I don't think we've had this in other lessons. They've used more than, less than. We know that's addition and subtraction. Here, 1/3 as much as X. So we need to multiply by 1/3. So whatever the value of X is, we multiply X by 1/3. Okay? So X times 1/3. X. And I'll write it here. Times, and if you put in parentheses, that means times 1/3. X times 1/3. All right, let's move on. Let's get our relationship between the X and Y coordinates for this particular coordinate grid. And I need to move down, and they won't let me move down. Hold on. Yes. Okay, so when X is 3, what is Y? 3 times 1/3. 3 times 1/3. How do we multiply fractions? I hope somebody said multiply straight across. We have a whole number here. I'm going to place it over 1 just so it makes it easier to multiply two fractions. You have a numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So let's multiply top numbers first. Numerator 3 times 1 equals 3. Good. And now we multiply denominator times denominator. Okay. 1 times 3 equals 3. Oh, very good. So my students know that when the top number is the same as the bottom number, okay, this has a value of 1. When the numerator is the same number as the denominator, the value of this particular fraction is 1. Let me quickly explain. This is really a division problem. So fractions are all division problems. So here, if we read this as a division problem, this would be 3 divided by 3. And we all know 3 divided by 3 equals 1. Very good. The same thing with any fraction, no matter how large the fraction is. So if we have 100 divided by, over 100. So the numerator is 100, the denominator is 100, which really means 100 divided by 100 equals what? 1. Very good. So anytime the numerator is the same as the denominator, the value is 1. All right, so let me erase here. And I'm going to go back up to our chart and place our value. So when X is 3, Y equals 1. And then we have to put our coordinate pairs. Open parentheses, X value goes first. 3, separate them by a comma. And 1, Y value goes next. And then close parentheses. Let's continue. 6. So when X is 6, Y is, so now we have to multiply because the rule is 1/3 times 1/3. So 6 times 1/3. How do we multiply fractions? We multiply straight across. You can put your whole number over 1. Just kind of makes it easier, okay? 6 times 1 equals. And then the denominator times denominator. 3 times 1 equals 3. Now we still have a division problem. The numerator and denominator are not the same, but it's an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. So we still have to divide, okay? If we read this fraction as a division sentence, okay, it would read like this: 6 divided by 3. What is 6 divided by 3? Think about it. All right, if I had 6 sticks and I divided them into groups of 3, now how many groups do we have? 2. Very good. 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So that means that when x is 6, y equals 2. And don't forget to add your coordinate pair. Open parentheses 6, comma, 2, close parentheses. All right, let's continue. Ms. Durham's going to erase here. You can pause and replay the video as much as you like. You are okay? All right, let's go. 12. When x is 12, what is the ratio between y? So here we would use the same rule. 12 times 1/3. 12 over 1. Numerator times numerator. 12 times 1 equals 12. Denominator times denominator. 3 times 1 equals 3. We still have an improper fraction, which means we have to divide because the numerator at the top is larger than the denominator. You should go ahead and divide out. 12 divided by 3 equals, I hope you said 4. 12 divided by 3 does equal 4, okay? So I'm going to put 4 here. If you all can do it in your mind, that's great. Mental math. If you need to draw sticks, draw 12 sticks. Separate those 12 sticks into groups of 3. And then you report how many groups you came up with. And then if you need to go ahead and use your calculator, absolutely. If your teacher told you it's okay to use your calculator, then that's fine. I know some of my students, I have in their system that they can use calculator, okay? So let's keep going. Coordinate pair here would be 12, comma, 4. Okay? And then I have to erase down at the bottom where we put our little notes so that we can move on to the next one. All right, last set here. When x is 15, y equals, follow the same rule, 15 times 1/3. Because y equals 1/3 times x. All right, we put our 15 over 1, numerator times numerator. Multiplying fractions are the easiest because you just multiply straight across. 15 times 1 equals 15. And then we multiply denominator times denominator. 1 times 3 equals 3. Still improper fraction, so we must divide. 15 divided by 3 equals, okay, I hope you said 5. Very good. 5 it is. And then now we have to fill in our coordinate pair. The x value is 15. The y value is 5. All right, let's go and get ready and prepare to plot on our quadrant here. Okay, let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, it doesn't look like I can make it bigger right now. All right, so I'm going to change to green. Let's do the first pair. 3, 1. So I go over to 3 on the x-axis. 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3. There we go. iPad is acting weird. 1, 2, and 3. And then we go up to 1 on the y-axis. So our data point goes there. I'll place it there. Okay, next one. Pause it if you need to draw it. Pause it if you need to slow down. Replay it. You can watch the video as much as you need to. Next set of data points. 6, 2. Okay. So here we'll go over to 6 on the x-axis because 6 is first. The x-axis goes first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we go to 2 on the y-axis. 1, 2. The data point goes there. Very good. The next set of data points, we're here. 12, 4. Okay. 12 is the first number, so 12 on the x-axis. This is 5, this is 10, 11, 12. And then we go up to 4 on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And our data point belongs here. The next one, 15, 5. 15, 5. Okay, 15's first, so we go to 15 on the x-axis. And then up to 5 on the y-axis. And the data point belongs there. All right, the last step is to draw your line and then label your line's name. This particular line is line H. Okay? So Ms. Dora will try. You try on your paper. Try to get a straight line. Mine's almost straight. Okay? And here I have to label it line H. You can put an H with a line segment over it. That's the mouth symbol. Or you can just write line H. So we're done with that. Pretty good for us. Okay? Ms. Durham's going to move on, sweetie pies. Let's go into the problem sets. Okay, this is the first page for problem set. Okay, let's read the directions together. Number 1 says use the coordinate plane below to complete the following task. Okay. First one, A. It says line P represents the rule X and Y are equal. So X equals Y. I'm going to write it on the side here. X equals Y. Okay. Excuse me. Number B, or letter B. Construct a line D that is parallel to line P and contains point D. All right, so we know that parallel, those L's give you the clue about parallel, okay? Parallel are two lines, just like the L's, that move in the same direction. They can go vertical. You can turn the L's horizontal. You can also turn those L's diagonal. And they would still be parallel lines that way, okay? So they want us to create or construct in a way where D is parallel to P, okay? So I have to do data points, so I just can't do freehand, okay? So Ms. Thorne will take that off. I wanted to show you all parallel. All right. And it has to contain the points D here. Let me see if I can circle it for you. D here. All right. So with P, X equals Y, we have to do the same thing for this line. Even though D does not have X equals Y. Let's check P. Because it looks a little weird here. Let's check and make sure the system didn't make a mistake. If I put a data point here, and a data point here, according to the rule that they gave us, P is X equals Y. So that means with every x-axis, Y should have the same value. So if X is 2, Y is 2. If X is 6, Y is 6. So let's look here at our data point. X is 1.5, Y is 1.5. Good. X is 3, Y is 3. X is 4.5, Y is 4.5. So they did do that. All right, so let's go back in. Let me erase. Okay, so here I am going to do exactly what they said do and draw a line here. Okay. All right, we're going to label this line D. Okay. All right, it says name 3 coordinate pairs on line D. It didn't say which coordinate pairs, where the coordinate pairs should belong. So here we'll just give 3 that we want. I'll put a coordinate pair here. That's 1. I'll put one here. That's 2. And let's do here 3. Okay, so let's look at the first coordinate pair. Okay. Let's go over. X goes first. So on the x-axis, this coordinate pair sits on 1/2. On the y-axis, it sits on 2 and 1/2. So let's write that. So the first coordinate pair is 1/2, comma, 2 and 1/2. Close parentheses. All right, let's do the next one. Okay, the next point on the x-axis, it says on 1 and 1/2, and then on the y-axis, 3 and 1/2. So let's write the coordinate pair. 1 and 1/2, comma, 3 and 1/2. Last point on the x-axis. On the x-axis, this is on the value of 3. On the y-axis, 5. So this coordinate pair would be 3, 5. I'm going to write it here. All right, let's continue. It says identify the rule for line D. Great question, because I was wondering what rule did they have here. Identify the rule for line D. It makes it a lot easier if we draw out our data points like we've done before. So I'm going to do a chart here. And we know x-axis goes here, y-axis goes here. The first point we have is 1/2 for x. And then we have 2 and 1/2 for y. The next one, 1 and 1/2 for x. 3 and 1/2 for y. And then the last one, 3, 5. 3 for x and 5 for y. So let's look at the relationship between x and y. What did they do to go from 1 to 1/2, and then they ended up with 2 and 1/2? Well, it looks like they added 2. 2 plus 1/2 equals 1/2. Let me see what happens with the next set. What happens when they go from 1 and 1/2 and then they end up at 3 and 1/2? Maybe they added 2. 1 and 1/2 plus 2 is 3 and 1/2. Good. Now here, if we have the rule correct, add 2 or plus 2, it should be the same for the last set, the last coordinate pair. X is 3. If we add 2, 3 plus 2 equals 5. So here our rule is add 2. Okay? Y equals x plus 2. So I'll see if I can put it in here. Y equals x plus 2. Okay? Or you can say y equals 2 more than x. We know that means addition. Okay? Let's go to E. Construct a line E that is parallel to line P and contains point E. All right, let's give myself some room here. All right, we need another parallel line. But this time they want us to run through or make sure our line goes straight through E, data point E. Okay? Construct a line E that is parallel to line P, and it runs right through line E. So let me hope that I can make a straight line. Okay, that's kind of straight, you all. All right, and we're going to label this line E. Okay, name 3 points on that line. Let's try here. 1, 2, and let's do here, 3. All right, and then it says identify a rule to describe line E. So in order to do that, let's first identify our data points. Okay, so the first one, and you know what? I want to go ahead and draw the grid first, you all. That way we save ourselves a little bit of time. So go ahead and draw another square with your x coordinates on the left, y coordinates on the right, and then we can write in our coordinate pairs. Okay? All right, let's look at the first point and see if we can determine the coordinates. On the x-axis, it sits on the 3, the value of 3. On the y-axis, there it is. It sits on 2, so the coordinate pair here is 3, 2. Let's keep going. Next point. On the x-axis, this point sits at 4.5. On the y-axis, it sits at 3.5. So the coordinate pair would be 4 and 1/2 and 3 and 1/2. All right, last point. On the x-axis, it sits on 5 and 1/2. On the y-axis, 4 and 1/2. So 5 and 1/2, 4 and 1/2. Very good. So now let's look at the relationship between x and y to determine the rule. When x is 3, y is 2. What do you think they did to 3 that they ended up with 2 at the end? It looks like they subtracted 1. 3 minus 1 equals 2. That could be a rule. Okay. Let's see if it works for the next set. 4 and 1/2 minus 1. Yeah, it kind of equals 3 and 1/2. Good. And if it works for the last set, or the last coordinate pair, we know that that's the rule. 5 and 1/2 minus 1 equals 4 and 1/2. Good. So the rule here is y equals x minus 1. Okay? Here, H says compare and contrast lines D, E in terms of the relationship to line P. So they want us to look at the red line, line D, the blue line, line E, and compare that to line P. Compare and contrast. What does compare and contrast mean? Compare things that are alike, good, and contrast things that are different, okay? What's alike between these three lines? All right, I hope that you said that they're parallel to each other. Remember, they're all going the same direction there. They are all parallel. Anything else? Well, they're both diagonal lines. Good. Diagonal. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think that's diagonal. Oh, boy. Diagonal lines. Anything else that's alike? And please forgive me, you all, if I misspelled diagonal. Sometimes teachers get teacher brain. Okay? Diagonal lines. Okay. Now, contrast. What's different between these three points here? Or three lines? Okay, the coordinate pairs. Good. The coordinates, they all have different coordinates. So I'll put different coordinates. Okay, I ran out of room. Different coordinates. And I tried to shorten different, DIF period. It's abbreviation. And then, what about the rule? Because remember, line P had a rule of x equals y. They were the same. Same points all over. And then here we had a different rule for line E and a different rule for line E. I mean for line D. So here I'll put different rule. Okay? All right, let's see if we can move on. It says, write a rule for a fourth line that would be parallel to those above and would contain points 3.5 and 6. We're going to need some room here, buddies. All right, let me see if I can erase. Okay, they want us to have a fourth line. So while I'm erasing, you all can go ahead and draw your XY data chart. I'll draw it over here. And we're going to section off. You know that X goes first and then Y. And then it says we have to have the data points 3.5 and 6. So I'll put that 3 and 1/2 and Y equals 6. Okay? So it makes it easier because they kind of gave us a clue. All we have to do is kind of determine a rule that would fit 3.5. And by the time they finish with the X, the answer would be 6Y. Okay? So what did you think they did to go from 3.5 and then they ended up with 6? They could have added something, subtracted something, multiplied, divide. You can pause it if you want a chance to think. I know that to get to 4, all I have to do is add 1/2. But that gives me 4. And to get to 6, I would have to do 2. So 3.5 plus 2 and 1/2 equals 6. We can try that. Let's try one thing. I'm thinking about one thing. 3, hold on, let me see. 3 and 1/2 times 1/3. What would that be? I'm just wondering. So you know that this is a mixed number, so we multiply, then add. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1, 7/2 times 1/3. This equals 7 over 6. Nah. All right, so let's stick with what we thought. 3 1/2 plus 2 1/2 equals 6. So let's write our rule. Y equals x plus 2 1/2. Okay? And we'll keep that there so that we can use for our other coordinates. All right, so let's get a different coordinate. If x is 3 1/2, let's go a little bit lower than 3 1/2. What about 2? When x is 2. All right, so when x is 2, what's the relationship for y? 2 plus 2 1/2 equals 4 1/2. Good. And then let's go up a little bit higher than 3 1/2. Let's go to 5. Okay, so when x is 5, if we follow the same rule, what is y? 5 plus 2 1/2 equals 7 1/2. All right, let's get ready to plot. First one, 3 1/2 and 6. So I'll go over to 3 1/2 and then up to 6, which would be here. We may not have enough room here, you all. They said above. Okay. So I'll place my plot my plot here, my points. And then the next one is 2, and then 4 1/2. So we'll go over to 2 on the x-axis, and then up to 4 1/2 on the y. My data point belongs there. And then the last one, 5 and 7 1/2, will be off the grid, and it's okay. So we'll go over to 5 on the x-axis, 7 1/2 on the y. I'll put it about there. Okay? And then we construct our line. And then I'll name this. It said the name for this line was, it didn't give us a name. Let's name it. We have line E, we have line D, and we have line P. Oh, we can name anything we want to. I'll name it line V. All right, buddies, this is pretty much it. I don't want the video to get too long, but I do want to show you your homework. Okay? I included that on the same video. So let's see. Okay? Here is the second part of the problem set, but the video is going to get too long. You all have enough knowledge. We know we've been practicing and practicing and practicing, everybody. So pause it here. If you need to copy your homework, copy it. If you need to just write your answers and your grid, you can do that. And some of us are taking screenshots and writing on our iPads. That's fine. All right, that's homework number 1. I don't know why it mixed up, but it did. This is the exit ticket, you all. And then here's homework page number 2. Okay? So if you have any questions and if you're having any trouble with any of the problems, we can do an online conference call and I can help you with the problem. Don't worry about it. Just let Ms. Durham know. Text me on the Remind app and you say, Ms. Durham, can we conference about problem number 2 on the homework assignment? Okay? All right, everybody.